Je vais le faire in French for French people, but after, just to be sure that there are a lot of people to understand what you say. Yeah, okay. Bon, alors là, on va... bonjour, messieurs, merci pour le sandwich. Ça, c'est sympa. Mais prenez place. Là, on va avoir la chance d'avoir... on va avoir la chance d'avoir honnêtement une petite partie, mais extrêmement importante du réseau international de KPMG. Donc il y aura des Israéliens, des Allemands notamment, des Français naturellement. Et donc l'idée, évidemment, plutôt que de se balader inutilement dans les couloirs, c'est de s'arrêter un instant pour se fixer dans ce que c'est que l'international et comment l'international de KPMG envisage d'aider les startups, les scale-up et les corporates, naturellement, et leurs investisseurs, pour développer le business. Donc pour le moment, on va essayer de fixer les gens. Donc je ne sais pas qui parle, c'est Jonathan Levenders qui est notre hôte, qui est un prestigieux personnage d'Israël, mais qui évidemment a des activités bien au-delà. Et donc je vais lui laisser les paroles. That's for you. Germany on Israel or only Israel today? Israel, come on, Jonathan. It's up to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and Dean as well. So I didn't understand a word. I hope it was good stuff that he said. Stand here? Okay, good. Do we have the clicker here? So, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here in Paris today with Vivez. Pretty excited. As I was having my breakfast this morning with my coffee and croissant, well, my third croissant actually, I was thinking to myself, there must be technology that you can have 3 croissants and it won't impact your weight. I don't think we're quite there yet, but if anyone has any ideas, let me know, because I'll be the first client for that technology and innovation. So very happy to be here. My name is Jonathan Lavender. I come from Israel. I globally chair KPMG Enterprise for KPMG globally. And with me is Dina Pasca, who heads our international tax and works a lot with startup companies in Israel. So we're here just to give you a short insight on what's happening in the ecosystem in Israel and share some interesting stuff around. So just in a short term, give you a quick view in Israel. We're around 8.5 million people. It's around 4.5 hours flight. You're welcome to come. It's a very nice place and the atmosphere is very good. You can see that GDP per capita is pretty interesting, and life expectancy is around 82 years. So a good and young population. We have around 800 new startups every year, which is quite a phenomenon for a country of 8 million people. And I think I need to explain this because the State of Israel was created 70 years ago in 1948. Immediately after that, we were in some battles with some of our neighbors. So a lot of the technology that was created in the last 70 years around necessity. So necessity around defense, necessity around water and natural resources. So a lot of that innovation has come through things that we had to get right and had to get right pretty quickly. What helped a lot is in the last 10 to 15 years, we've had a massive amount of investments outside of Israel. So in the last few years, it's around $4.5 billion a year investments into the tech ecosystem. 70 to 80% of those funds are coming from the US, which fuels a lot of innovation into the ecosystem as well. You can see the sectors which are very hot today, and it's topical. So it's FinTech, cyber, obviously digital health, AI, robotics, food and ag tech. And we have 350 multinational companies which have R&D centers in Israel, and we'll speak about that when we continue. So definitely a lot of innovation and disruption in a small country. A few of the phenomena, or 3 of the key elements of why there is a lot of disruption innovation. One is the government. So the government 30 years ago started government accelerators and funds which fund startup companies. So if you have a nice idea, you can get around $300,000 from the government. The government used to take equity in the company. They don't do that anymore. And if you failed, nothing happened, you didn't have to give that money back to the government. So a lot of people have enjoyed creating innovation without that happening too much, but that fueled a lot of young people or entrepreneurs going into the state and having some funds to start some innovation. Most of the universities in Israel have R&D and commercial arms. So if you're a professor, a doctor, you're working on an idea in a university, you have the way to commercialize it, and you have equity in the company, which is something pretty common now in the world, but 20, 30 years ago when that started, it wasn't too common. The third is the Israeli IDF, the Israeli army. So We have around 5,000 people leaving technology units every year, people that have between 3 to 5 years of experience in working in cyber, in AI, in pretty serious and important situations. All that knowledge is taken out to the civilian community and ecosystem. That fuels a lot of technology coming out. Actually, what we're seeing lately is Google, Microsoft, the large giants are headhunting these people straight from the army, flying them now over to the West Coast, which is an interesting phenomenon. So, and another thing is, every day you open the paper in Israel and you see in one of the first pages another Google or Microsoft or Apple making acquisition in Israel, which causes a lot of the youngsters saying, we want to be in this ecosystem of technology. We want to be there. We're not afraid to fail. So failure in Israel is not something bad. It's seen sometimes as an advantage. So if you come to VCs, one of the questions they'll have is, have you failed? What have you learned from those failures? Which is an interesting phenomenon, because if you failed 10 times, that's probably not the entrepreneur you want to be. But if you failed 1 or twice, you've probably learned a lot through the way, which is very interesting when you want to go and raise capital. One of the questions that I ask when I meet technology companies is not what they want to pitch to me usually, because they come with a 20-minute pitch trying to get investments, is what solution are you actually trying to solve? A lot of them are not focused on the solution, the problem in the market. Is there a real problem? Is there a need for that problem? Will anyone pay for that solution or problem? And that, these dialogues that we have with the companies really transform their business model to make sure that they're successful in what they're doing. Dina.
Yes. So as Jonathan mentioned, what we see in the last few years was a phenomenon in which you have those large tech multinationals that are making acquisitions in Israel. But as you know, every technology you constantly need to invest in R&D, and the technology needs to evolve. So usually the acquisition of technology is not just for the sake of a specific IP, but a significant part of the acquisition is actually retaining the manpower that produced it originally. And so the process that we're seeing is having Israeli startups that are being acquired and are being converted to R&D centers. So in certain areas in Tel Aviv and in Herzliya, just north of Tel Aviv, you see all these brands and labels on buildings, because all these companies that you're seeing have huge R&D centers in Israel. This phenomenon is also being criticized in Israel in a way, because they're talking about in the financial press about the greediness of the entrepreneurs that are selling too quickly their IPs to the large multinationals rather than developing them and turning them into huge companies themselves, but not sure we can blame them. So in order for us as an accounting firm, global, to deal with this huge world of technology, there is a need to focus on specific sectors or verticals and release our, let's say, insights on these specific sectors. So one of the things that we commonly see in Israel is not just a general discussion on technology or innovation. We see under the specific sectors the innovation that is disrupting each of these industries, and then you have also solutions that are crossing the different sectors. So, for example, just to take insurance, you have the insurance sector and you have people that are coming from the insurance and from the tech side. Both of them are dealing with the technology companies because the technologies know the tech side, but they are sometimes less familiar to connect with what Jonathan just mentioned about what is the problem that they are trying to solve. So the people from the insurance sector are familiar with the problems and are familiar also with the solutions that the old industry is looking to get. So you have the sector, which is the insurance, but then you have specific disruptors and specific needs, for example, cyber or Industry 4.0, that are actually disrupting the industry or taking it to the next level.
Yeah, so I think just to add on the multinationals, to give you two examples, Apple made their first acquisition out of Cupertino in Israel. Now they have 1,500 people working in their R&D arm. IBM made the largest acquisition in cyber in Israel, and Opel, their global cyber COE in Israel. So these acquisitions are usually very strategic for these companies and in strategic sectors. This is the map of the FinTech, just to give you a feeling. We have around 450 startups in the FinTech area. It began by peer-to-peer lending and a lot around lending and the basic stuff around FinTech. What I'm happy to see in the last few years is the FinTech industry dealing with the core problems of banking and insurance companies, which is knowing your KYC, knowing your client, anti-money laundering, and regulatory. The heavy burden of these financial institutions and taking away costs and making efficiencies. And that's where you're onboarding client or maintaining your client, and that's where a lot of inefficiencies could come into place. There's a company which I like to bring an example, and we don't have it here, is Lemonade. Lemonade is disrupting the insurance industry. So you can go into the Lemonade app. Within 7 minutes, you can buy your insurance policy. And if you make a claim, within 3 days, they pay your claim. They managed to do that because 80% of the revenue of Lemonade is to pay the claimees, the people who claim the money. And what happens is they've disrupted the insurance industry because they looked at a phenomena, was saying there's a total distrust between clients and insurance and the insurance industry. So if you're driving in the car and you have an accident, so you're usually claiming a bit more than what you think the insurance company will pay you, and the insurance company is trying to squeeze you down on your claim. What they're saying is 80% of the revenue and the profit will go back to people claiming it, and if you're claiming more, someone else is losing, and that's millennials like that kind of transparency. This company's just raised another $200 million, and it's really disrupting the insurance industry. So that's quite an important example in the insurance industry. Another big segment is food tech and ag tech. So we have some very interesting accelerators looking at these specific solutions. I was in Australia 2 months ago, where they have massive issues around crops and how do you manage and how do you make yourself more efficient in this industry. There's great technology. There's technology around cows that have something, chips on their neck here, to make sure that the whole efficiency around creating milk and the number that you need is very efficient. Yes, Dina?
Just to connect to Jonathan's point about the necessity creating the innovation, as you know, when Israel was founded 70 years ago, one of the main problems is that Israel doesn't enjoy a lot of rain and a lot of water. So the whole concept of drip irrigation was invented around 50 years ago in Israel, and it's continued to be Netafim, one of the Israeli, let's say, multinationals, is still driving the innovation in the ag world and the water irrigation. So I think this is part of Jonathan's point in the beginning, that the necessity is driving this, and still I think in terms of water and clean water, this is something that is today you see a large demand in India and in the ASPEC countries, which is also very strong. Huh? Okay. So I think one of the Industry 4.0, the way we created it, we view it as, you know, there is a question whether it's the second industrial revolution or the fourth. Doesn't really matter if it's the second or the fourth, but we are expecting the digitalization, automation, and all the robotics to change significantly the world of industry. So this is not what we consider a specific verticals. We see it as a horizontal disruptor of the industry. And this is something that not only the tech companies need the advice. We see in many cases that the traditional economy, the industrial companies, are looking for this innovation. They want to embrace it just fully because they don't want to be the next Kodak or something like this. So I think you see a very interesting race of the old industries, and maybe we'll get to the next slide, which is talking about another one. Another one. We see all these like incubators are basically run by traditional companies. The kitchen is run by Strauss, which is the largest food company in Israel. Sanara is run by Teva and Siemens. And all these companies are basically creating hubs in order to bring this innovation into them, embrace it, and incorporate it into their business model. So this is a very interesting phenomenon that we see. And we expect this to grow. And I think when you go around here at the VivaTech and you see not only classic high-tech companies, the large technological multinational IBM and Microsoft, but you see a lot of L'Oreal, for example, and Louis Vuitton and the other places. So you're seeing today everything is becoming technological. Everything is becoming technology, and everyone wants to embrace the technology in order to keep with the pace of change.
So just on Industry 4.0, the interesting example is Adidas. I'm not sure everyone is aware of. So Adidas used to manufacture all their shoes in China. They brought it back to Germany. And does anyone know how many employees Adidas has in their manufacturing plant in Germany? Any idea? Apart from Frank, because he knows. He's from Germany, so he's not going to answer. Anyone? How many people? Roughly? Anyone? Don't leave me here just asking questions. What do you think? 3,000. Anyone else? 5,000? Okay. 260 people create 500,000 shoes today in Adidas. Go and see look at the videos, look at it. It's all robotics, everything's AI, everything's automotive. Amazing stuff. And it has a great impact on how they manage their supply chain. So massive changes which will change global economy. So countries will bring back manufacturing to the home countries because you have robotics. You can just imagine what disruption that could cause to countries who have a lot of very low labor today in the manufacturing stuff. So that could cause pretty much some chaos in the world as well. Interesting phenomena. These are again a few accelerators that we work with. So on the right-hand side, you can see some of the health organizations that have commercial arms that we work with. These in the middle, the middle one is 8200. 8200 is the largest unit in the army, the intelligence unit. And we have a strategic partnership with them. So everyone that leaves that unit can open up a startup and we advise them as part of their accelerator. And there's some very, very interesting technology come out of that. And we have a special accelerator looking at social programs coming out of that unit as well. So very interesting things that are helping our ecosystem as well. So to be frank and honest, that's it from us. We wanted to keep it short just to give you a glimpse of what's happening. If you really want to know what's happening in Israel, you must come and be on the ground. That's the only way to really absorb the technology and innovation. So you're welcome to come. Dina will host you as well, not only me, but if you want to come, if you want to know more, speak to us as well. Thank you very much to our partners in KPMG in France, to Jerome, to Michael, to Florian, who's done a fantastic job in representing us here. And I think we're over to Frank in Germany. Thank you very much, everyone.